Welcome, witches.
I'm Jen,
I'm Candy.
and we're the Cornfield Coven. All right, as promised, we are going to listen to the interviews, pre-recorded interviews from Heather Cook and Drew Collins today. And so we just wanted to introduce a little bit, show what was going on. Candy will be listening to these interviews right along with you guys.
I'm with you all at home listening and hearing this. So you'll have my raw reactions to it all.
Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and start with the interview between Jen and Jen is me. I just referred to myself in the third person, but I didn't know if you know it was me. You should know it's me. Candy's voice is much nicer than mine.
Oh.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start with the Heather Cook interview, and then we will come back and just have a little bit of discussion, and then we'll do the same thing with Drew's interview. So, all right, here we go. All right, so I am very fortunate today to have Heather Collins here with me. Thank you so much for meeting and agreeing to do this interview. We really appreciate it, and it's very important, like you expressed to me, to keep the case in the news and out there. So I think that's great. My first question for you, and maybe that'll guide some of the rest of the questions, is what do you wish people would stop asking you?
Okay. First off, I go by Heather Cook now.
Oh, Heather Cook. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah, I just did that not too long ago recently. Changed my last name. But so I guess one question. Because of Lyric's parents' past with the drug abuse and usage, I guess it's always like, so did you think your sister did it? We really think that. And I know I've said that. I've said it on TV before, like not per se, like come out and say it, but I've, indicated it. So over the years, you just don't know. I mean, it could be someone that they knew that did drugs and they owe drug, money, even if it wasn't a lot of money.
Right.
You
never know.
Or it could have been someone that we know. You really don't know. And I've learned just to, put that in the past. And because how would I feel if it ends up being somebody we know?
Right.
Devastated. And then if I was blaming them all this time, I would just feel devastated because I know that the community, a lot of people, that's what they think of them. And a lot of times because of that, Lyric gets missed.
Right.
My daughter and I have talked about it. Callie and I have talked about it. And we just think that the Lyric gets missed. She kind of gets pushed to the side. So we always try to talk about Lyric. We always try to, like the ride, Lyric and Elizabeth, talked about her, like on Elizabeth Collins Foundation, talked around that. So we try to make sure we include her because this happened to her too.
Yes,
it happened
absolutely.
to both of them.
Yes.
So, we just try to make sure Lyric's name is always out there as much as Elizabeth's because we don't want her name to be forgotten. And she wasn't less.
Of course.
Because of what her parents may or may have done, so we just are try to be big on that.
Okay.
Because it is a question I get all the time.
Right.
Is who do you think, do you think, your sister and her ex had anything to do with that? At first I was like, well, maybe just because of how they acted and stuff. But I don't know. And it's really not fair for me to say yay or nay.
Yeah.
So it's just, you know what? We don't know. We don't know who did it, you know?
Right. And it's really hard to judge people's actions because so few people have ever been in that situation. And
exactly.
I have no idea what my reaction would be, what I would be doing.
Right.
You know, so I think judging reactions is hard to do unless you're looking at somebody like Chris Watts, because you saw that guy on the news and it was immediately like, that's not right. Something's not right, you know?
Right.
But, yeah, I don't think you can make a snap decision based on someone's reaction because you have no idea what different humans are going to do when they're put in a situation like that.
Because,
so,
you know, when they went missing, there's just off things that they did, you know, but that was probably their coping mechanism.
Right.
So, you know, I like to shop and I shopped more.
Yeah.
Because it was to get my mind off of
you just need to sink into, just numb your mind.
Right. Or I would fixate on something and then just keep going and going and going.
Yep.
And then I would eventually stop. But it was just something to get my mind off of that. You know, and it wasn't that I didn't think about them. It's because it's every second, especially then it was every little second. So it was just something to get my mind off of kind of that, whether it was right or wrong. And I'm sure that's what I know that's what they did too. They were just trying to take a break.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. So how often are you in contact with investigators that are still working the case?
I'm not contacted at all.
Okay.
Drew kind of handles that.
Okay.
He lets me know if there's something for me to know. Our energy, like once we hear something, it's like a hope if it is something good, and then we get just knocked down.
Just a roller coaster.
Yeah. And so even when they were missing, we got like, oh, we think we might have it, da 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 da. And then nothing. So we would get our hopes like up and like tell the family, and the family come together, and then we'd get nothing, you know, that it didn't come through. So, and that's just gut wrenching. And beyond that, you know, we had psychics, tons of psychics, and we would follow some of those leads, and there would be nothing. And at that time, you just hope and pray that they're right, and you like hold on to every little word that they say.
Yes.
You know, because you're just hoping that you're going to find them alive. You know, because that's what you and everybody else wanted, is just to find the girls.
Hold on to.
You know, you want to find the girls alive because that's what keeps you going each day.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have more information about the case than the public does? Even if you can't share anything, and that's totally fine, but have they given you more?
They have not given us any more.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
I wondered, that was going to be my next, was how you feel about
I would really
that.
like to know more. There's some things that we asked them not to tell us. When the girls were found, we didn't want to know how they were killed, how they were murdered.
Sure.
Because to us, the only ones that know that are the person that murdered them.
Yep.
Or, you know, the police,
the
DCI.
Small group.
Right.
Because it wasn't widely shared with all of law enforcement either, was my understanding. Nope. It's a very small group who has that information.
And, you know, we just got to think, you know, that's how Evelyn Miller's case was solved. He leaked someone to, you know, in prison. And he said something to the guards, or however that went. And that's how her case was solved. Yeah. Was just because he leaked, you know?
Yeah.
So.
That's important. Yeah.
Yeah. So we just, you know, if that is the case, you know, that they are in prison and they say something, or they say something to somebody else, we just want to kind of keep it that way because they're the only ones that are going to know.
Yes. Okay. So. That makes complete sense. So last year in 2025, there was a news release that the DCI is using this new DNA technology that can separate out different strands, and that it may be helpful in the Evansdale case, and they were working on that. But I wasn't able to find anything after that. Do you know if anything has come of it?
Nothing has come of that. I hope that there still is.
Still working on it?
Yeah, because
possibly?
I don't know how long that takes. I don't
either,
know,
yeah.
like, where, like, what their other needs are. Like, do they have other cases that, need to be solved faster? I don't know.
Okay.
So I don't know where that is, unfortunately, at this moment.
Okay, but that's still...
It's still in the works.
Yeah.
I just don't know where.
Okay. All right. I really hope something is able to come out of that, because the DNA technology and the way that they're solving older cases lately is just, Gacy. They've been able to identify some of his victims. That's half a century ago.
Exactly, and it's just crazy.
Yeah. And so we talked a little bit about this before we started recording. And my question was kind of vague, so I apologize for that. And what we were talking about was how far the bikes were from a vehicle accessible area. Because obviously whoever did this, or people who did this, they had to have gotten them in a vehicle at some point to get them to Seven Bridges. And we had just kind of talked about it's the part where the bikes were found is really the only isolated part of that path. Right. And it's about as far as you can get from a parking lot.
Yeah. So, I don't know if someone took the bikes over by themselves. I don't think the girls went that far. I think they could have just been taken on our street.
Okay. So maybe that wasn't the site of the abduction.
Right. So, they could have
dumped the bikes there.
Taken the bikes there. They could have done it off the highway, taken the bikes there, thrown the bikes, thrown the purse up and over, right. A tiny purse up and over,
Yeah. And the purse was kind of my next question. It had her phone in it.
Yeah.
And what kind of purse was it?
It was a Hannah Montana, right? Yes, she loved Hannah Montana. So that was up and over. And I remember when Drew called me and told me that. I'm like, she's gone. She's gone. Not just at the bikes, and everybody's like, they're in the lake. I'm like, they would have taken off their shoes or something, because, they come home drenched. We'd be like, what are you doing? You weren't even supposed to go that far, So I just knew that they weren't in the lake, that they hadn't drowned. I am glad of their diligence. Right. They did drain the lake.
Yes.
So that was,
because you don't want that question.
Right. So that was able to
you or the investigation.
Right. So that took that out,
Yeah.
So that I was grateful for, but I just knew that wasn't, the case. And then I think, did that take so much time doing that, and we weren't able, that they weren't able to focus on something else.
Right.
But
it had to be done, but it's also a double-edged sword.
Exactly.
Because I have an 8-year-old daughter, and I know how she is with her purses and how she is with her phone. She just got it. It's a big deal. She knows it's a responsibility. I can't see any scenario. I mean, you could say I have 10 puppies in this van. She's not going to throw her own purse over a fence to do that.
Yeah.
So at that point, I kind of theorized that by the time that happened, that the purse was thrown, this person or people had physical control over the girls. Do you think that's viable?
Yeah, I do. I
really ties in with that section of the path being just a dump site for the possessions rather than the actual site of the abduction.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So that's, do you think that indicates that there may have been more than one person?
I really think so. To take 2 girls.
And they're not babies.
No,
8 and 10.
And Lyric was a bigger girl.
Mm-hmm.
She's probably 150 pounds.
Yeah.
Even at 10, she was just a bigger bone girl. And she was a scrapper. I'm sure she didn't go in lightly. So I really believe that there's 2 people. Unless, I can see maybe I'm saying, one person say, oh, look, come look at my puppy. And then both kind of getting in and that person being out and then that person shoving them both in, especially if they're like halfway in.
Or if they found a way to incapacitate quickly.
Yeah. That I could see one person taking them.
Right.
But otherwise, you kind of just think 2. But then you look at the other cases recently.
Yeah.
Clunder and then Abby and Libby. So you look at those, both those girls, was just one guy and Clunder. And, he got Kathleen and then, Desi's still here. But yeah, we really just don't know. That's my only thought is them being almost in the van already.
Right.
One person could have done that. But then that one person would have really had to lock the door real quick or something and go around.
Plan.
And get in the car to drive off.
Right.
Or a vehicle or whatever it was. So.
Right. And speaking of Clunder, how do you feel about him? We are going to cover him in a separate episode, to bring attention to his victims as well, and the coward that he was.
Yeah.
But do you, because initially the police said he's ruled out, and then they came back and said nobody's ruled out until somebody's ruled in. Do you still feel that he's a viable suspect?
I don't honestly know. The pattern kind of fits there. 2 girls.
The double abduction and the rarity.
And the double abduction doesn't happen very often.
Right.
It just doesn't. And the fact that he took them, Kathleen and Desi, he actually got them in the car and took them.
Yeah.
So that's, kind of would be the same way with the girls. Just maybe a different scenario.
Right.
But I just don't know. It's really hard to kind of say. You play out all these things in your head.
Right.
And then you go, I don't make sense because it's just so far off.
It just spins circle after circle after circle. And then,
and then you just.
Because the possibilities are finite, but they're also endless.
Right.
It's an oxymoron almost.
Yeah. So I don't know. And, DCI and stuff, they don't know either. So it's we're all kind of stumped.
Right. Okay. Do you think that this is related to any other abduction or murder cases or attempted abductions? There was the guy that was arrested and they figured out he had tried to abduct, almost 20 girls in Iowa. But again, it seemed like he could pretty much be ruled out of this case. And typically they don't escalate and then go back to just trying to abduct and then let them go.
I think maybe this is a first timer.
Okay.
Or people first timer, whatever. But sometimes I think that. And then sometimes I think, maybe it's not. Maybe it is somebody who has done this, because they have not been caught yet. Because it is 14 years.
Yes.
July 13th, it'll be 14 years. So because of that, you kind of wonder, go back and forth.
Yeah.
Of, well, maybe it was somebody who has done this, because obviously we still don't have someone in custody.
Well, maybe they had done a single before, in some other cases of, serial offenders, there is cases where they have a double event. Where they do 2 at one time,
Right.
or 2 in the same 24 hours, something like that, as a form of escalation. So I understand your stance on both sides. It could be a first timer.
Yeah.
There's just so many possibilities.
Yeah. And
which is sickening.
It really is. To me, Drew and I are in like a club, I say. A very unwanted club.
Yes.
Parents that have had children go missing and then they're found murdered. We've gone to conferences, stuff down in Florida, NCMEC, and that kind of stuff. You just see the wide variety of things that people do to kids and how people have found them and stuff like that, and like there was a neighbor boy across the street and they were all like playing like kickball or whatever it was. And, all the kids went in except for one. And she was missing. He helped in the investigation and stuff like that. And I
believe I know the case you're discussing.
And his mom went into the room. It's giving me goosebumps.
Yeah.
His mom went into the room, smelled something, lifted up
she was
the
under
mattress.
The bed.
And he was, I believe it was a waterbed mattress, lifted it up, and there she was. And they just couldn't believe it. This kid wasn't like a violent kid.
Right.
Or anything like that. And so you just hear all these cases. And then your mind going, because they hadn't been found yet when we had went to the one, and just like, what are they doing to my babies?
Oh.
So
I'm so sorry.
Your mind goes bonkers. I mean, your mind just goes everywhere. And I pray when that happens.
Mm-hmm.
God, please take those awful thoughts away from me, because you don't want to think about your babies getting raped. You don't want to think about your kids hurting ever, going hungry, being all hot and sweaty, if they're in a van. And just, you don't want to think about that. You don't want to think about them being afraid or ever hurt, and you're their parent, and you're supposed to be able to stop that.
Yep.
And prevent that. So I just my thing is just to constantly pray about that when that comes in my head, just for God to take it away, because I don't know, I'd be a basket case.
Yeah. I'm so sorry that someone took that power away from you to protect them.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. What a monster. I just can't imagine it. And like you say, it happens everywhere. Do you have relationships with any of those other parents? Like from the Delphi case, Abby and Libby, or Kathleen and Desi, or anyone you've met at these conferences?
Not Kathleen and Desi, but Libby and Abby a little bit.
Okay.
It's not like an ongoing thing, but they came a year ago or something. Libby's mom, I believe, but
okay.
And if I say that wrong, I'm sorry if it was Abby's mom. But not huge contact.
Yeah. But it's awful that club exists, but I'm also grateful that there's someone that can sort of understand.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice to have someone that can understand how you feel. Even if it's a different case, they still know they're without their baby, you're without their baby.
Yeah.
So they still know that, they know what it feels not like to have their kid.
Yeah.
Just like you do. So, that's kind of what you have in common, and you can just sit with each other, not talk about anything, and you both know.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So an Amber Alert was not issued for Lyric and Elizabeth at the time because Iowa had very stringent laws about what required an Amber Alert. You had to have a vehicle description, or you had to have a subject description. You had to know that it was an abduction.
Right.
How do you think the criteria now has been broadened enough? Because it was broadened because of Lyric and Elizabeth.
Yep. I want to say I got the news. I want to say it was on her birthday, 2013. We were me and some friends and the kids were in the movie theater. And I got the news and I was like, praise God. Because a child's missing.
Yes.
Like,
thank you.
You need
I don't
to
care
put
if
it
they
out
ran away. Go find them.
Exactly.
It's a child.
And a lot of people, because of runaways, like when, like the parents like, well, they probably ran away. They were mad. It's still a missing child.
Yes.
A child's missing. Get their pictures out right away. And with so much social media now, get it out there immediately.
Yes.
We have the things on like bridges or whatever, tells you how many people died a year or to slow down or whatever.
And my phone blows up, like doesn't matter if it's on silent, it goes off louder than a tornado warning. And I'm glad it does.
Yeah, and it does do that. And I couldn't be more blessed. We're very blessed that got changed.
Yes.
Because it might have saved some kids, lives, which one kid.
Thank you for fighting for that, for all the kids of Iowa.
Dan Tronka did a lot of helped a lot with that.
Okay.
So.
Good. Can you, I kind of want to wrap this up. Is there anything you want to say about the case before we move into just a little bit more about the girls?
Just it's not so about the case. It's just, it can be anybody.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're in a small, quiet little town, it can be.
It's always, it can't happen to me until it does.
Yes. And that was one of my biggest fears, is one of my children getting kidnapped. And it happened. Like my biggest fear. Like I was always the one like, hovering.
Yes.
I'll hover. I don't care.
Yeah. You can call me a helicopter parent.
I'm okay.
Whatever. Put the helmet on and stay within 6 feet of me.
Exactly. So, that's, I guess, just, what I would say is it doesn't matter what your town looks like or your neighbor,
Right.
So.
Be vigilant.
Very vigilant.
Okay. So what, can you share like one of your favorite things about each of the girls? Just, something they did frequently, a favorite memory, something that always made you smile, or even something that made you mad. You'd like, oh my God.
Lyric was very stubborn. So that was one thing I just, drive me crazy. But she had a wonderful smile. She loved the Lord. She loved her family. She loved animals. She loved her cousin.
Yes.
She would fight for her cousin. Elizabeth, she would smile even if she was in trouble. She does what I did.
Did that make you mad?
I would just be like, oh, you're in trouble. You have no idea. But it got her out of trouble.
Yeah.
Because of the smile, She does what I do. I cock my head. I smile. She did that. And I'm like, gosh.
Like, it works.
Elizabeth.
Girl, that's a skill.
Yeah, it's a skill. Oh, you sneaky little person. But she loved her animals, and all animals, to be honest with you. She just loved animals, and she loved her family, and she loved the Lord. She, we would take her to church, and she would just sing her heart out and stuff, and she loved holidays. Even Mother's Day, she wanted it always to be
all of
big.
them. Not just the ones where they get presents.
No. Nope. Mother's Day, like anything like that, she just loved. And I make a big deal about birthdays, holidays, Valentine's Day. I just make a big deal about stuff.
Yeah.
So she, I'm sure got that from me,
Yeah.
She'd be like, okay, what are we, and she was only 8, what are we doing for mom? Da, da, da. What are we doing for dad? Da, da, da. So she wanted to make sure everything was, perfect and planned for whoever's, Mother's Day or Father's Day. It didn't matter which one, she didn't favor one or the other.
That's such a generosity of spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and she was. One time Drew gave her, I don't remember how much money for her, and then there were some older kids and then some younger kids. They all walked to a ice cream store just down from us. And he's like, did you bring back change? And she was like, and there was several kids, so I know it had been more than $20. She's like, no, I gave it to them for a tip. He's like, you gave them like a $40 tip or whatever it was. Then she's like, yep. Wasn't that nice? Ah, child.
It's like, oh, well, you did my good deed for me today,
yes.
child.
Yeah.
What is something about the girls that the world should carry with them to make it a better place?
Their heart. Just to never stop loving, even though that this tragedy happened. They would not want this tragedy to stop people from loving and to be kind to each other. You know, I mean, I know that from Elizabeth for a fact. I mean, she would not want like Drew and me to be upset and, you know, crying all the time and, you know, depressed all the time.
She'd want you to celebrate those holidays.
And the time that we had with her, which I'm so blessed to be able to have those 8 years with her. You know, they were wonderful. You know, and her siblings just loved her so much and miss her.
Yeah.
You know, especially her older brother, who's 26 now.
Yeah.
You know, he really does miss her. I mean, they were, you know,
and he had
two together.
The most time, so the most.
Yep.
So, where did Elizabeth fall in the order?
She was the second.
She was the second, and then you had two that were younger.
Afterwards. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, she was the second. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And how are your other kids doing?
They're doing pretty good. I mean, they have their moments.
Yeah.
Amber does a lot of poem writing, and she's the 20-year-old. I haven't heard any new poems from her, but she does a lot of poem writing, which I think is her outlet. I mean,
that's really wonderful.
Yeah, she really
has that creative outlet.
Yeah. Because I see things that she's wrote in the poem that I would have never known. Yeah. So that's, you know, awesome. And Callie,
even when they're little, the siblings have their little secrets.
Yeah.
You know,
and Callie just holds on to time because her and Elizabeth love Barbie. So they just, you know, she holds on to that. And then, you know, Kelly with all his memories of her, you know, so they all have their special memories, you know, that they hold on to. Or, good. You know, I feel Amber expresses it the most of her, I don't want to say depression, but of her sadness. Yeah. Through her poems. And Callie has done one poem also that was the same, but you know, you just get so much sadness that they put out, you know. Yeah. Otherwise they wouldn't tell me that, you know. Right.
And I think, you know, it's good to get that out and not internalize it and
for sure.
Carry it all the time. You carry the good things and let out the sadness.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Is there anything that I haven't asked that you wish to share?
Well, I think that pretty much wraps it up.
Okay.
Thank you so much for meeting me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for my bracelet.
Yes, you're very welcome.
Love it.
I'm happy to just do something little to thank you for taking this time. Everyone who's listening, please make sure that you are sharing, getting this story out there. Someone knows something, and someone is going to spill at some point, and we need to get to that point.
Correct.
Because we need this solved. You know, I can't imagine the toll that it took on your family, but I witnessed the toll it took on the community. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was changed forever.
Yeah.
But we know that they're looking over us now.
That they are keeping us safe. So.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so Candy, thoughts, questions you had after listening to Heather?
First off, she has a great voice for radio. But really, for somebody who has had one of the most unthinkable things happen in her life, she is, I don't know how to explain it. She's very positive.
Yeah.
About, as she said, keeping the girls' memory alive, not just her daughter, but her niece. But she wants their name out there.
Yeah.
Because they want answers. And even though her and Drew are not together, like he keeps in contact with the authorities and all of that stuff, and then he keeps her in the loop, which I think is wonderful. But she loves her daughter.
Yeah.
And you could hear that love, and it was wonderful for her to take the time. But yeah, I mean, she has those facts right. I mean, and why wouldn't she? I mean, if one of my children had been taken, I would have. But wow.
Yeah. She's so strong.
Yes.
Too, was what really struck me. Resilient. You know, she had to continue her life.
She had other children.
She had other children, you know, and she's she's not just a mother, she's a person.
Yeah.
You know, and she is carried on her life, and she holds, you know, when she said she's grateful for the 8 years that she did have Elizabeth. Just the strength in that statement.
Well, and the fact that she said, you know, she tries to find outlets and she tries to find like comfort, and that they go to a convention for parents of missing children, or when I was listening to this and I looked at you and I said, there's a convention for this. And then I thought to myself, well, yeah, there would be a convention for this. And then it just kind of made me sick to think that we live in a country, or we live in a world where we have these types of things.
Yep. Isn't that just enough to ruin your day a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this family deserves justice. This woman deserves answers. So does her ex-husband. So does her daughter, her other children. It's like...
Yeah. And Dan and Misty and everyone who, you know...
But
everyone
Elizabeth
who loved these girls.
Had sisters. And, you know, they had a cousin, Lyric. And those young ladies, I mean, the trauma...
And a brother.
And a brother, yeah.
Yeah, her oldest brother.
They had trauma. They had
heartache.
Absolutely. They had... And I couldn't imagine losing a child, but then... And a niece. And then having to still... be a mom and comfort them to make sure that they're coping. Heather's a rock star. I mean, and I'm sorry to say it like that, but to be able to, and then to have a separation, because you have to make choices. And yeah,
incredible woman.
I would be in a loony bin. But yeah.
So. All right. Well,
that was a great interview, though. I'm thankful for her taking the time to speak with you.
Yes, and I thought it was really interesting when she brought up the point of she doesn't necessarily think that where the bikes were found is where they were taken. She thinks the bikes, that was like a
staged
dump site.
Yeah.
And they were taken elsewhere. I thought that was really, really interesting. I hadn't heard that perspective before.
Well, and like when you guys were talking about the Hannah Montana purse and her phone, and like you were talking about if your daughter was out and about, she would have her phone. It wouldn't be something she's just like, I'll leave it here and I'll come back for it. Even if it didn't have cell service.
Yeah.
It was still that's
a
their
prized
lifeline.
possession.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
And like, your kiddo would be out there going, oh, like, especially if they're luring with puppies, like, I gotta take a picture and send it to my mom. Like,
yeah.
Or, you know, like, oh my gosh, this puppy's cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a very interesting take. I think completely possible.
And that's how you know it's a man. Because when he flung that purse, if that was a woman, even if she thought it was like GPS encrypted or, you know, like tracking, she would have smashed it. She would have smashed it, or taken the chip out and destroyed the chip so the GPS couldn't happen. Because she knows accessories, purses, you know, if there was trinkets in there, she knows that they would think something was up if it was laying over there.
Yeah.
Because as a woman, we have our chapsticks, our cell phones, our hair scrunchie, or, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Necessities. And to a young girl, those are necessities. So that's why in my heart, I'm like, dude, it's a dude. Like, because, but I don't know. Watch it. Anyways.
Yeah.
But no, that was very kind of her to sit down and chat. But she has a lovely voice. And you hear the hope for answers in her voice.
Yeah.
You hear the love she has for her daughter and her other children. And you hear the love in her voice for being part of that community that no one wants to be part of.
Yes.
But being a support for them also.
Yep.
But.
All right.
That was
well. We will go listen to Drew's now. And here we go. All right, so I'm here with Drew Collins, and thank you so much for agreeing to this interview and being supportive of us covering the case. Like Heather said, and we agree, and I'm sure you do too, it's important to keep getting the story out there, keep attention on it, because it needs to be solved. You guys deserve answers. So one of the questions, and this was something I asked Heather too, the first thing, and then this can kind of guide some of the other questions if necessary, is what do you wish people would stop asking you?
Yeah, I don't really know on that. That's a good question. I don't think there's anything I don't want people to ask. I think it's good people are asking questions, so I don't really have any questions that I don't like to ask. I can't think of one anyway.
Okay, awesome. So how often at this point are you, because we're coming up on 14 years, how often are you in contact with the investigators on the case? Heather really indicated that you kind of take the lead on that.
Anytime something comes up, like people will call me and give me leads. If I think it's a good lead, I might just give Scott a call, or generally me and Scott try to meet about every other month, or
is Scott with the
yeah,
DCI?
Scott Rieger with DCI. We try to meet, every month or so. Sometimes it's 2 months if he's got a lot going on, because he just got a promotion, and but he held on to the case, but now he's like the head of our area. He got after his promotion, but he held on to our case, so he's really busy. But he always takes time to call me back or meet with me.
That's good.
We have a pretty good
relationship
as far as, if something's going on, he'll call me or vice versa. So
okay,
we keep the lines of communication are always open with us. So
okay. And do you have any information, other than what's been released, even if, you can't share it here, were they able to share more with you? And Heather did mention that there are things that you guys asked them not to share with you.
There's not really much that they've shared. So I would say, I know pretty much what, is out on that they've released. That there's not really much more that I know.
Okay.
I just know different theories that people have come to me with and stuff like that, and about different individuals, but
okay.
Nothing substantial really, I would say.
Okay. And sort of the last thing as far as developments is in 2025, so last year, there was a news release that they were using a new kind of DNA technology where they can separate out, if they've got a sample that consists of 2 or 3 people, they can try and separate that out to identify the different sources. Have you heard anything more on that?
Well, basically how that works is, we were going, this kind of started about 4 or 5 years ago. They were going to send our evidence to a lab.
Yeah.
And then before they do something like that, they always check the lab out, see if it's up to par, and so we went through that process, and then they came back to me and they were like, we're not sure about this this lab. We're thinking about purchasing the stuff that we can test it at our own lab in Ankeny. I believe it's in Ankeny, but and then that it's a whole process. Then they had to look into it. It takes a lot of time. Then they came back and said, we're really thinking about buying this stuff so we can do it ourselves, and we like this equipment. So then they this is over a few years, so
Right.
They said, we're going to purchase the stuff so we can do it in our in-house. So we have, if they just let that stuff out, they don't know for sure how it's going to be handled. So they wanted to make sure it was handled
sort
properly.
of a chain of custody.
Yeah. So then they came back, I want to say 2023, 2022, and said, we're buying the stuff. Then it took a while to get it. Last
get
year,
trained on it.
Yeah, so last year, I want to say late 2024, maybe early 2025, they bought the software and the hardware to do this stuff. And after they bought it, then they have to go through this process of learning how to use it, and going through that process, they have to have an outside source come in and make sure they're using it properly.
Right.
And that's kind of where we're at right now, is they're going through the process of learning how to use it, and also having people check to make sure they're doing everything properly. So last time I talked to them, they said probably late this fall they'll start processing all the evidence that they have through this new software and hardware that they bought. So
okay, that's
it's just
encouraging.
Everything takes so much time, and they're so
Right.
methodical about everything they do, because they want to keep the integrity of the case.
Right.
They don't want to do something that is going to come back and bite them later. They just want to make sure
or damage the sample. Are there limited samples?
I don't know
Okay.
what, they don't tell me really what evidence they have, or if it's on clothing, or if it's on the bikes, or if it's something they found. Maybe they had a suspect. I don't know this, but maybe they had a suspect and they went to his house, and maybe they took carpet fibers, or we just don't know what those things are.
Okay.
They could be samples from a suspect's vehicle. We don't know. So they just will start, I think sometime late this fall, going through that stuff.
Okay.
And some of it's stuff that maybe in 2012 they didn't have the technology to like you were saying,
Right.
separate those multiple DNAs. Now they do. They also have new technology where it's almost like a vacuum, where they can pick up very small,
Yes.
very small,
Like touch DNA.
Yeah.
Even. Yeah.
and then that kind of stuff. So we got a bunch of new technologies they're going to be throwing at it, and but it's just the process takes a long time. So
Yeah. And it's good that they, want to preserve the integrity of the case and make sure everything is done correctly, but I'm sure it's really frustrating for you how long that takes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just gotta you don't have any control over it, and you want to find out who exactly did it. Obviously, we wanted to find out sooner, but
Right.
these things take, because you also have the Constitution and our rights, and so even the bad guys have rights.
Right.
So they have to work within the law to get these guys. They can't go outside of the law, because if they do something that they're not allowed to really do, then it could come back and that person could ultimately just walk.
Right.
So they got to be, very careful about everything they do. So everything they do has to be methodically done, or they risk the case. So
Yeah.
I know that. And so, as much as I hate it, I realize that. And it's been a process for me to get here to this point where I'm
Sure.
I understand that because I'm a very impatient person, if you know me. So it's just kind of the way it is, and I know that, and I don't want to see this person walk.
Yep,
Um,
absolutely.
So you know, I just kind of take it for what it is, and you have to accept it. And you know, the investigators kind of walked me through all this stuff from the beginning. Um, they're just really good at, you know, telling you, okay, this is like in the beginning. Okay, you know, when they're interviewing all of us, you know, don't get offended because we have to ask these questions. We start, and they broke everything down. They're like, you know, we're starting here. We start with the family, then we work to friends and family, and then it kind of just goes from there. So, you know, don't, and they've been really good at, you know, telling us the processes through it. So, as much as I've hated to wait, I understand the process, and I understand why the process is the way it is. So
Yeah.
it sucks, but it's just the way it is.
Yeah. Okay. I'm really glad to hear that that is still moving forward, and, you know, hopefully we'll be hearing something in the next year or two.
Yeah, they can also, one of the other technologies is, you know, part of the problem, I think, is, you know, the body's laid outside for so long, and,
Right.
you know, they weren't probably able to get DNA and stuff off because they were, I would say, decayed. I don't know if that's the right word, but from being out in the sun. But in 2012, they couldn't get DNA stuff off of that stuff. But now, with the new processes they have, they can get DNA off of a smaller sample. And the thing about it is, also, like, technology's rapidly changing
Yes.
all the time. So if this what they're doing now doesn't work, you know, in the future it's just gonna be getting better and better.
Yep.
So they can just get more information from smaller samples,
Right.
where and the decayed samples, where they weren't before. Now they can. So I'm really hoping that this new thing can solve it. But if it doesn't, we just kind of keep having to look forward,
Yes.
to technology changing.
And thankfully the authorities had the foresight to, you know, collect everything they could, knowing maybe we can't do anything with this now, but
Absolutely.
we know how things are moving forward.
Absolutely.
You know, because there's cases from the 70s that, you know, are being solved now because they knew DNA was coming.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely.
So that's all great. So kind of going back to when this happened in 2012, the bikes were pretty far from a vehicle accessible area.
No, I wouldn't
Were
say
they?
though.
No.
No. If you follow that trail down, it comes out on Arbutus. And, you know, one of my theories is, and it's real wooded, that somebody, because there's that fence line that goes, there's fence on both sides, and the girls were kind of coming through there, and somebody could have stopped them and then just walked them down. It's probably a minute walk to the opening on Arbutus.
Okay.
And if somebody would have been, say, parked over there under
Okay.
the trees or something, no one would have saw. And if somebody would see them, they would probably figure, oh, it's just somebody fishing over there.
Right.
So it wouldn't have, you know, alarmed anybody to see a car back there. I think, I feel like that the bikes weren't dumped there. I feel like that's where they were taken.
Okay.
But
So
I don't know.
You do think that is
yeah.
a good possibility that was the abduction
That's what I think, because
site.
it's almost a good place to take a couple kids if they were
Because
coming.
it's like the only isolated place really on
That's
that
very
trail,
isolated.
right?
Even though the highway's right there, the highway's up high. Now it's not as bad, but back then there were a ton of trees.
Yeah.
It was overgrown. Because of the noise of the highway, if somebody was yelling, the people in the houses couldn't hear. So like I said, it's almost like what they run cattle through. There's no place else to go. You're coming that way, and some an adult is there or something. No one can hear you, no one can see, and they could just get you off your bikes, either by tricking you or by force, and then get them down there in the vehicle, and then they're gone.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I think happened is they were taken from there, but I
Okay.
don't know 100%. That's just my feeling.
Right. Okay. And with the bikes, there was also Elizabeth's Hannah Montana purse that had her phone in it, and that was thrown over the fence.
Yeah.
My daughter is 8 and she just got her phone, and she knows that it's a big responsibility. She needs to take care of it, and I think it would have been very difficult for someone to get Elizabeth to part with that willingly, to throw it over the fence. So I just kind of wonder if that indicates the perpetrator had control over the girls at that point.
Either he had control of them at that point, or that's the dump spot. And maybe instead of they were taken there, their bikes were taken there, and then he said, "Oh, leave the purse there too," but not on because
Right.
it wasn't on the side, the walkway or whatever it is. So like if I'm wrong and they weren't taken from there, the guy has them say at his house, wants to get rid of the bikes.
And that's an isolated spot on the trail. It would take you a while. It took you guys a while to find
Absolutely.
the bikes.
So he takes the bikes there. He doesn't want the purse there with the phone in it. So
especially,
throws
if
the
it's
purse.
someone who knows GPS on phones. It's
Yep.
a kid's phone. Very
And
likely that's turned on.
It wasn't an active phone. It was just so she played games on it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't an active phone, but
But he probably didn't know that,
Yeah.
Okay, so if that was the abduction site and it appears that he had physical control at that point, do you think that lends credence to the theory that there was more than one perpetrator here? Or do you think it was one person?
It's very, very rare for a double abduction by a single person.
Yes.
There's like they've been keeping track. They keep track of that stuff for statistics, and I think it's only happened, 18 or 20 times since the end of the 60s and up to 2004.
Yeah, I think it was between the 70s and Lyric and Elizabeth, I believe, were 16.
And so
Kathleen and Desi were 17, and then Abby and Libby and Delphi were 18.
Okay.
I believe. I could be wrong. I have it.
And there's a study done by this. I believe it's up in Washington State. It's the Washington study on child abductions, and it shows all the statistics of child abductions. It's happened so few a times that they can't even put it in there on the statistics because it hasn't happened enough. It's very, very rare. So the chances of it being one person are pretty low.
Okay.
I don't think if Clunder came here, he did it by himself. He had friends here.
Yeah.
But I think maybe if it was Clunder, somebody helped him here on our case, and then it shows you how hard it is, because what happened with Desi being able to get away.
Yes.
It's hard for somebody to pull it off because you're
Right.
trying to manage two kids. So I mean, it is possible it could be a one person abduction, but the chances are pretty slim.
Okay. And speaking of Clunder, and we are going to do a separate episode on him, and bring light to his victims as well. how do you feel about the possibilities of him being the perpetrator?
Well, they say that they can't put him here, but because of his phone. But if you're gonna,
Was it just the phone? Because they never released, at least publicly, what it was. They said they had information that would place him elsewhere. And to me, if it's just the phone, well, it's
yeah, you could leave your phone at home.
Yeah, it's not embedded in your body.
Yeah, I don't really 100% know because they've been very closed mouthed about it. Like if you look at our investigation, and then you look at the Indiana investigation, they're much different. The Iowa DCI has been really, really good at keeping all the information to themselves.
Right.
And I think as bad as that sucks for us wanting answers, at the back end of things is where it really comes in and helps the case.
Right. Because there's been false confessions and stuff too.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, we've had false confessions, and that's the thing is, it helps them. That it also helps the investigators having it closed and real tight, because when you have those crazy people saying, "Oh, it was my boyfriend," or "I did it," or something like someone coming in and saying they did it, they can ask them a couple real simple questions. And if they don't know the answers to those questions, then they know it wasn't them. So on the front end, it sucks for the family. We want information. On the back end, if you look at the Delphi, like I was saying before, so many of those things that they let out kind of came back to haunt them later on. So I think they've done a really good job at keeping everything close to the vest and not letting things out.
Okay. Do you think it's possible that there's a drug-related aspect to the case?
The reason why I don't,
Evansdale or anything else.
I mean, it's a possibility, but the reason why I don't is because, generally, those people flip, and if you had information on this, and it's in those kind of groups, it might not be that well of a kept secret.
Information on this would get you out of a drug charge.
Absolutely. It would get you out of any kind of jam. And so as the longer time goes, the less I believe that kind of scenario, because people are getting pinched and looking at long periods of prison time.
Yeah.
They're going to go, you know what? I know this about this guy here had something to do with the girls. That's a get out of jail free card.
Yep, absolutely.
So, I don't think so, but you just never know.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's wise. Yeah, I think if there were people who knew about this, and in the drug world, it's very hard to move in anonymity, so somebody would know something about what happened, and to have nobody in that community, I guess to call it, speak
after 14
years. Yeah. I asked Heather about this too, and this is something I think she's really, really happy about, is the expanded criteria for Amber Alerts.
Yeah.
That came about in Iowa.
And, we were looking at having to go to the state legislature and go through all the processes, but Dan Troka went and he got them to change a few words around, and just by what he did, and you could always contact him. He would be able to tell you exactly, and he's very easy to get a hold of how he did it, but he got that changed really easily,
because it was only a year later, right?
Maybe a little longer than that. You'd have to ask Dan. He knows the dates and stuff, but it was just looking like an uphill climb to really get that done.
Yeah.
And it was kind of going to be a difficult thing to get done, but he's real smart, so he
Yeah.
figured a way without having to go through all the crap, and got it done fast because he saw the problem, and wanted to do something about it, and instead of just talking about it, he's a guy of action, I'd say, and just got it done.
Good. That is amazing.
Yeah, you should interview him. He'd be a good one to interview.
I reached out. I don't think he's interested.
Oh, okay.
But that is totally okay. I know he's done a lot with it. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. And I just want to thank you guys for doing that. I think anybody with children appreciates that you guys did,
It's
did the work.
All
to
to
do
Dan,
that.
all to Dan, for sure. I didn't do. We knew it was an issue, and we obviously wanted to get it changed, but Dan got it changed.
Good.
And he did it. He did it because, this affected him greatly.
Yeah.
He had a pack of kids at home too.
Yeah.
And he saw that it wasn't correct, and he got it changed. So
good.
Kudos to Dan.
So in the Taken Together documentary, you did some investigating of your own. At one point you were in my hometown interviewing someone. Like, I remember watching that, and I'm like, he is at the community center where you confronted that man. That's where I got married.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Okay. And you've said people still kind of call you with leads or tips or theories, and you convey those and work with law enforcement on that. Are you still doing any kind of investigating?
I've never stopped.
Okay. Do you ever worry about your safety?
No.
Okay.
No. I carry a big gun.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was a little concerned for you. I was like, at least it's broad daylight and there's cameras running and he's going to be okay.
I'm never afraid of these kind of people because they're weak. Like Clunder, he was a weak.
Yes,
they go
coward.
They go after children because they're a weak target.
Yep.
So I don't fear any of these kind of people at all.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else regarding the case that you would like to share?
I can't think of anything, no.
Okay.
I think.
And just to kind of wrap up, what's something about the girls that the world should carry with them that makes the world a better place?
They were just good kids. Their life was just beginning.
Yeah.
And we have these people that are, I compare them to a dog with rabies. They, like, if I saw a beautiful redhead walk across the parking lot here, I would, whoa, look at that, because that's a beautiful woman, and my heart might get going, and the thought that that's what they do when they see a young child, a young 7-8-year-old girl. It just makes my mind crazy because I know those people are out there. You look at a guy like Clunder, he should have never been allowed out.
No.
He's attracted to young people, and you can't get that out of somebody. If I go to prison for 5 years and that redhead walks out in front of me after 5 years, it's still going to do the same thing to me. I'm still going to be going, oh my, look at that.
But the fact that you think you have a right for it to go anything beyond that.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone has their natural reactions, and when you're looking at a child, it's not a natural reaction.
No, it's sick.
It's sick. But, like you say, you look at a redheaded woman and you have a reaction, but you don't feel that you have the right to any more than that.
Absolutely. And I think what a normal person doesn't realize is these people live like a Clunder or people like that. They live in almost a fantasy world, and they have no empathy for other people. It's just their gratification.
Yeah.
And I think a guy like Clunder, he liked to watch other people suffer. He had no empathy. And these people are out there, and they can go to prison for 20 years or 10 years or whatever it is, but if we let them back out into our society with our children, it's just a matter of time before they do something. They act out, and
with so little oversight most of the time.
Absolutely. 5 years and 10 years in prison doesn't change what these people are. And they knew, the state of Iowa knew, from the time this guy was, I don't know, 14 or 15, he was showing signs of antisocial behavior where he doesn't care about other people's feelings. He's not a normal, like what we think.
Yeah.
The empathy we have, the care we have for other people, and he never had that, and they knew it. He took 2 little 3-year-olds, threw them in a dumpster. He molested that girl in the shower room at a park. Kidnapped another woman. I mean,
yeah,
this guy should have never seen the light of day.
No. No,
And
and that's something we'll go into too when we discuss Clunder's case. But
I mean,
the amount of time he was given versus the amount of time he served. Why do we have sentences then?
Yeah.
Why? If you're gonna say 40 years.
Well, and then they'll come back and say, well, he was a model inmate. Well, there's no children.
Exactly.
There's no victims.
That's
in
exactly
prison,
my point, yep.
He's the victim. So he has to really watch what he does. He has to watch what he says, because
his victim profile is not there. So there's no one for him to victimize.
Yep. He's the victim in prison. He's the one that's going to be victimized. So, of course, he's going to be at his best behavior.
Yep.
He's going to be a good boy and do what he's told, make his bed every day, do whatever else they want him to do. He wants to get out.
Yeah.
He can't do what he wants to do when he's in.
Yep.
So, we have to always be thinking about children when we let these guys out. And, a lot of these guys, right on their paperwork, it says might even say high probability to reoffend. And we'd still let them out.
Yep.
And we're letting them out into our society where our kids should be able to, my daughter and my niece should have been able to go for a bike ride.
Yes,
play,
absolutely.
And be kids and enjoy their life. And someone like this is out there, and they can just come in and take your kids, murder them, and get away with it. And that's crazy to me. It's not okay. And so I'm going to continue to just do whatever I can to help wherever I think it needs, and continue to talk about it, continue to look for whoever did this, so they can't do it again. And if it isn't Clunder, Clunder's dead. If it isn't Clunder, until I know exactly who it was, we're going to keep looking.
Yes.
And that's all I can do. So.
Okay. Well, I'm so sorry that you're going through this, but I appreciate all the effort that you put in. And, if there's ever anything, if you ever want to do an update, if things are moving along, if there's information you want to get out there, we would love to meet again. But
awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
Okay, so Candy, after listening to the interview with Drew, comments, thoughts, questions. So watching the documentary, and before you were going to meet with him, we were chatting about the show, and I had asked, is he becoming more of a vigilante? Like, is he aware he's putting himself in harm? Does he only see red? Is he going after people who could, like, full force, like, hey, do you know, what'd you do to my daughter? And you were like, well, something I'll ask, like, and then like in this interview, he was like, I'm not afraid because those people are cowards, or like,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, that's true. Like, he's talked to enough people, but also he's a pissed off dad. He's a protector.
But he's very calm and methodical about it as well. He's just like, no, I'm not afraid, and no, I'm not going to stop asking questions.
No.
But he's also so tightly connected with the law enforcement in the case, and
he asked the right questions,
mm-hmm.
but with firmness, but yet calmness.
Yeah.
And I as listening to Heather's interview and then listening to Drew's, you can tell the mother-father aspect of them.
Mm-hmm.
She's wanting answers, but she's wanting to comfort, and she's wanting to, know things, and he's like, the science of it, this of it, is there anything else we can do? Or, he's out there really getting the word out and wanting answers. And I mean, they both want answers, but it was just different aspects of how they go about it.
Yeah. And I think they've each taken on the role that works best for them. And then they complement each other as well.
Yes.
Which is really great. But I was most excited to hear that there are updates. The DNA testing is still on the table. It's in process. They're very committed to that. They just want to make sure it's done right. I'm really hoping that gets us some answers in this case.
So talking about the DNA and talking about the testing and stuff like that, because of the time of year the girls were found and the little amount of DNA, do they have to be very picky about how many tests they do and stuff like that? Because you don't want to dwindle away.
Right. And I asked him about that, and he's not sure because they don't. This is one of those things that the investigators are keeping very close to the vest. They don't know what these samples are. They don't know where they came from. They don't have any of that information, just that there are samples.
Oh gosh.
At least one, and they do want to perform this particular type of testing on it. And they hope to perform different, as technology advances. So I think that's all very promising. I just don't, because I have the same questions, about sample sizes and limitations. And
because you look at all these old cold cases and from like the 70s and the 80s, and they're now being resurfaced because of the technology we have these days.
Right.
But they still have to be considerate and thoughtful of how much they use.
Yep.
Because there is only a little bit. And oh goodness. I should have paid way more attention in science class. But that was so nice of him to speak with you, and it was so nice of him to enlighten us more on a different aspect of what Heather knows and what Drew knows. So it's it was a balance, like you said.
It was very balanced, I think. I'm so grateful to both of them for participating in this and getting the information out there. And for all of you listening out there, please share information about this case. Get it out there. Share our Facebook post. Make your own Facebook post. Find things from the Elizabeth Collins Foundation.
Somebody knows something.
Yes.
And I know they always say that. But somebody knows something, and somebody might not know they know.
Exactly.
Because it might have not something they've been aware of, or anyways. But the more you share, the more it triggers something for somebody. And these girls, these families, this town they deserve answers and justice and peace.
Yes. Yes. All right. Well, thank you guys for listening to both of these parts of this special case that we are covering. If we have updates, we will give updates. Yep. And do our best to keep the information flowing out there. Please do the same thing. We really want answers. We really want answers for this family. There is no justice in a case like this, but we want answers.
Yeah. Nobody wins in a situation.
No. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening.
Bye, witches.